Virginia Governor Northam wants to give driver's licenses to illegal aliens. Are you paying attention, Virginia? I'm Dan Stein. I'm joined by Shari Rendall, FAIR's Director of State and Local Engagement, and we're talking about Governor Northam's apparent plan in Virginia to give driver's licenses that are virtually indistinguishable from what are given to citizens to board planes and everything else, probably in violation of Real ID. Shari, what is the governor thinking here?
Well, he's focusing on illegal aliens and their benefits at a time when Virginia is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, and the numbers are just absolutely increasing in this state. We know the legislature did send him a driver's license bill back in early March, and it was an agreement that was tailored between the House and the Senate, the House being more open borders advocates wanting more and more, similar to what Governor Northam is now demanding. He sent a bill back to the legislature with amendments to virtually eliminate any distinctions between a driver's license by a citizen and one by an illegal alien. And it's shocking, especially knowing the history. We only have to go back to 9/11 when you had 8 out of 30 state IDs and driver's licenses here from the state of Virginia. Obviously, history is looking to repeat itself with Governor Northam.
Well, this is rewarding people who broke the law in front of people who respected the law. This is encouraging law breaking, encouraging illegal immigration, rewarding illegal immigration. How can it be that we have two political parties now so diametrically opposed on a core and fundamental principle that respect for law is a cornerstone of American citizenship? This corrosive strategy by the Democrats to eviscerate all distinctions, to destroy immigration law enforcement, is not only a threat to public safety and national security, it's a threat to the health and welfare of all Americans. Don't you agree? And what do Virginians need to do about it?
It's something I absolutely agree with. And right now, the Senate will be meeting tomorrow to determine whether or not the amendments that Northam is proposing will go forward. We have about 4 or 5 senators that we are looking to reach out to: Senators Deeds, Edwards, Lewis, Peterson, and then a Republican hanger. And we're just hoping that Virginians make their displeasure with Governor Northam's suggestions known to their senators right now.
Everybody should definitely be contacting their Virginia state senators. This has implications not only for Virginia, but all across the country, in the sense that any state is only going to be, the country is only going to be as secure as the least secure state. And states that do this are jeopardizing public safety all across the country. All right, well, Shari, I'm joined again to remind you, this is Shari Rendall, our State and Local Engagement Director here at FAIR. I'm Dan Stein, and let's talk about some of the breaking news that's going on. Look, last night, President Trump said in a tweet, he's going to suspend all immigration to the United States. A lot of details need to be worked out. We don't know much in the way of specifics, but Shari, what would you say that the base of the President Trump's political base, how do you think they're reacting?
I think overall, we're seeing support for him to halt immigration during this pandemic. I know there was a Harvard-Harris poll just recently taken that showed a majority of Americans don't want immigration during this pandemic. They see this as a health and safety issue, and they're the ones they're the voices that President Trump appears to be listening to. Obviously, this is something that we need to see what's happening. We haven't seen the meat behind this yet, and we're, like everybody else, looking forward to seeing the actual details.
Right, but I think for most folks out there, the important thing is the president is articulating a core policy, which is that our immigration flow needs to respond to changing conditions in the U.S. Sustained immigration at a time of high unemployment, weak wages, deteriorating working conditions, certainly at a time of a pandemic, major national health crisis. Congress has given the president tools to deal with this kind of specific emergency. And it's good that the president has the right idea. And as everybody says, there are going to be some exceptions. We know there's a lot of heavy lobbying by big agriculture and certain industries, but It's a good and valid principle, particularly in light of the fact that the president has already suspended processing and consular offices are closed anyway. So a good deal of immigration has slowed regardless of this executive order. But it's extremely important that it be drafted in an airtight fashion to sustain the inevitable barrage of ACLU-generated court challenges. What other news you want to talk about today, Shari?
Well, speaking of ACLU, we're seeing a lot of pushback on our sheriffs who house detainees in some cases. And in fact, we have a sheriff up in Massachusetts, Sheriff Tom Hodgson, who has been ordered to release detainees, despite the fact that his jail didn't have any COVID-19 detainees. And he's been ordered to release not only those who have nonviolent crimes, but also some inmates that had things like rape, assault with the intent to kill, and others. And he was very vocal in the fact that his jail took exceptional precautions against COVID. They were sanitizing, they were making sure people weren't in close contact. They had limited visitors to the jails.
Tom is one of the best sheriffs in the country. Bristol County, a fabulous guy. He's on the National Board of Advisors of FAIR too, right, Shari?
He absolutely is. And he's also alerting the folks in his communities as to the public danger posed by releasing some of these detainees.
So, the argument is what? If the detainees, which, by the way, they can always go back home voluntarily if they don't want to be in civil detention in the U.S., they just volunteer to go back to their home country. But they're in civil detention in this country because they don't really have the right to be in the United States. And so what the opposition arguments is that in a facility where there's no COVID-19, they should be released out into the community where they can get infected.
Absolutely. Not only that, many of them don't have jobs, they may not have homes to go to, and they don't necessarily have health insurance. Whereas in the jail, there is
at least we get to pay
a medical,
right?
Yeah, and they have medical facilities within these jails that can ensure the health, safety, and well-being of the prisoners. So it is ridiculous to release them out under the guise of the jails being a breeding ground when you're releasing them and they may not even have the ability to get the health care that they need.
Well, let me ask you this. In the face of a global pandemic and a obviously major crisis here in the United States, obviously, what evidence is there that the advocates who want to destroy immigration enforcement and increase immigration levels legally, illegally, at all costs, what evidence is there that they have modified at the state and local level any of their traditional tactics or demands as a result of this national health crisis?
It doesn't seem like they have modified anything. They're going no holds barred at all of these immigration enforcement processes, and they will seek nothing less than eliminating immigration enforcement in the state and localities.
How can this be politically viable? In Virginia, I understand they went for a change in the legislative control, and they obviously have their governor. But for old line Virginians who are used to a different way of doing things, how are people handling it? What about in these other states where, for many, many years we've heard globalization is everything and national borders can go to the dustbin of history? Suddenly we've all been reminded that national borders are an important attribute of sovereignty and about national self-determination, national security, public health, et cetera, et cetera. How come they don't pick up the message? Why don't they get the memo?
It's astounding that they're still using that same old tired line. And you see it in a lot of the politicians. For example, in Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot has given illegal aliens access to funding during this time period of the corona pandemic.
They're making a big point of giving illegal aliens access to funding. The so-called Trump bucks, corona bucks, whatever you want to call them, they're all upset that somehow we're not giving billions of dollars of taxpayer money to people with no right to be in the country, as if somehow citizenship means absolutely nothing. Respect for law means absolutely nothing. The immigration laws have no meaning. Why don't they just come out and flat out say, look, we just want to abolish all immigration laws and just let the whole world run in here? Why don't they have the guts to say publicly what they truly, truly believe by their actions?
That would be definitely more honest. You're seeing Governor Gavin Newsom, who is giving $125 million to illegals who weren't funded under the stimulus. He's saying that
California has the money to do that. And how are the homeless veterans doing in the meantime, Shari?
Well, and that's something that we've been saying all along is, you know, when you take from one person to give to another, you're taking away money from people who deserve it, like our veterans who fought for us, and yet they're waiting at the back of the line while illegal aliens come forward. And
so if you live in California and you care about this issue, what can you do when you have such a hostile state government?
well, obviously your voice matters, and people need to express their opinions and to continue to push on the state and local levels. And hopefully with more and more people joining forces, you'll see that change come about in states. And it's only going to be a matter of time before a pendulum swings back as people realize there's only so many resources to go around. There's eventually going to be a recognition that if you give to one group, you're denying another group. And once people start to, you know, coalesce around that, then we can see some change.
Are you seeing, is there any momentum? Do you see any momentum increasing now in the wake of this pandemic? Are Americans getting more engaged?
I think Americans are getting more engaged, and I think you're going to start seeing a reaction, and you're going to see the differences between areas like New York City with Mayor Bill de Blasio, California with Governor Newsom, Chicago, Minneapolis versus others that are saying, no, we need to put our residents first, our citizens first. And even Governor Cuomo has not agreed to give illegal aliens funding. He recognized that there's only so much money in the pot, and it needs to go to people who are here because they're citizens or because they're legal immigrants and have come into the country through the front door.
Well, out of this disaster, there's always opportunity. This is an opportunity for FAIR to continue messaging these core issues. We hear the White House has been listening to us clearly from the Trump administration's actions last night. They've been listening to the messaging that we've been putting out. Complex messaging sometimes that FAIR creates, which is heard in powerful quarters and throughout the United States. FAIR is your voice to be out there articulating and advocating your positions for the country and for the American people. So join us at our website, that's fairus.org. You can sign up, get our action alerts, absolutely free. Be part of our growing army of active and engaged citizens across America. And naturally, your financial support is also what helps keep the organization going. Naturally, at this time of the coronavirus, your philanthropic money should go first and foremost to helping the community with the outbreak. If you have a little extra to send our way right now, there are tremendous challenges and tremendous opportunities, and we'd sure appreciate a little help out there. Shari, your team do a great job. Let's keep working all across the country. I'm Dan Stein. This is Shari Rendall. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dan.